Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Krista, and you're listening to the Gritty Glitter Badger podcast, the show where sport, fitness, and life intermix and mingle. My experiences are transactional, transformational, and optimistically transmutational, because after all, life is like one big, epic workout. Well, welcome back to the Gritty Glitter Badger podcast, where I love to dig deep into the science that nobody else thinks is sexy or glamorous or, all those really dope and epic things. And I'm your host, Krista. And yes, I am the Gritty Glitter Badger. And today, first of all, I have like a new mic system here and I set it up. I've got like an inner mixer now, and so I'm still learning. So bear with me, but I'm super excited to like have this really like big girl set up now for the podcast, 5 years in. And but quite honestly, this is really totally epic. And today I want to tell you about the most powerful supercomputer on Earth, right? And this machine possesses 11 million bits of information per second. And it runs 37 trillion simultaneous operations without crashing. It also has 86 billion processing units, and each one has up to 10,000 connections. That's more possible configurations than there are atoms in the observable universe. And this computer can predict the future. It's running simulations 100 to 200 milliseconds ahead of real time. And it's also adjusting outcomes before they even happen. It operates on just 20 watts of power. 20 watts of power. And it does all of those things. That is less than a light bulb, just to give you some perspective, while outperforming every artificial system that we've built. And it has its own internet with chemical messaging that travels at 268 miles per hour. It also repairs itself while running, and it gets stronger under stress instead of breaking down. And as if that isn't like totally dope and epic, here's where it gets really wild. This supercomputer has specialized sensors that can detect a single photon of light, measure temperature changes of zero point 0 degrees, and also it processes mechanical pressure at the molecular level. It runs quantum calculations that shouldn't even be possible at body temperature. And it has a self-cleaning system that operates every night, flushing out computational waste through microscopic drainage. And like the craziest part, okay, well, put down your basic fitness magazine and I want you to prepare to have your mind blown. This isn't just science. It's the owner's manual you never got for literally the most badass supercomputer to ever exist, and it can never be replicated. So let's freaking cruise on in to the topic of the day. Your body is a supercomputer, and you're only using 10% of its processing power. So picture this, okay? You're mid workout grinding through your third set of deadlifts. You're thinking you're just picking heavy things up and you're putting them down, right? And meanwhile, your nervous system is orchestrating a computational symphony that would make Silicon Valley weep. And your proprioceptors are calculating joint angles within fractions of degrees, while your vestibular system is running real time physics equations to keep you upright. And let's talk about your visual system. This is processing spatial relationships faster than any graphics card. And that's just the opening act. Here's what's actually happening. Your your body is running more simultaneous programs than most sophisticated supercomputers. And you're sitting there thinking about your playlist. We've been sold this really sweet, cute little adorable lie that fitness is simple. Lift heavy things, run far, get sweaty, and repeat. But underneath that Instagram friendly narrative, your nervous system is actually pulling off feats of computational wizardry that neuroscientists are only beginning to understand. And you're not just training muscles, you are conducting a 37 trillion cell orchestra where every musician is also a mathematician, and the sheet music is written in biochemical code. So, what is the hidden symphony? And, what is your nervous system actually juggling? Because I think we just look at our bodies and it's like, it's just, doing its stuff. And there's really, not these miraculous things that are happening inside of our bodies when actually it really is. So I want to get granular about what happens during a single rep of any exercise. And Dr. Daniel Wobert from Cambridge calls movement the evolutionary reason that for our brains to exist. And when you see what's involved, you'll understand why that is. Your nervous system isn't just sending contract signals to muscles. It's running predictive models, adjusting for countless variables, and it's solving physics problems that would crash most computers. Now, take the deadlift, for example. Your mechanoreceptors in your feet are sending over 200,000 signals per second about pressure distribution. And your Golgi tendon organs are monitoring tension to prevent you from literally ripping your muscles off of your bones. Okay. It's like, can we take a moment? Thank you, body, right? Like, thank your body, whoever you are, wherever you're listening to this right now. I literally, if you're in your car, I just want you to say, thank you, body. Everybody, collectively, thank you, body, because it's also your muscle spindles are tracking length changes and velocity, not just whether muscles are stretching, but how fast and in what pattern. And Dr. Stu McGill's spine biomechanics research shows your core alone is coordinating over 29 pairs of muscles in microsecond timed sequences just to keep your spine from folding like a lawn chair. But here's where it gets properly mind bending, as if it already isn't. Your cerebellum, that little brain at the back, contains more neurons than the rest of your brain combined. And it's running predictive models about what's going to happen 100 to 200 milliseconds in the future. You're literally living in a simulation your brain created of what's about to happen. Then you're adjusting reality to match that. So every time you move, you're time traveling. Now, what is the proprioceptive matrix? And, or your body's GPS system on steroids, if you will. So, proprioception, which I had mentioned earlier, is knowing where your body parts are without looking. And it sounds simple until you realize what's actually involved. And Dr. Sherrington won a Nobel Prize just for discovering the system. And we're still unpacking its complexity. Science today is still like looking into it, and more things are coming out. And we have specialized receptors called Ruffini endings that detect skin stretch, Pacinian corpuscles that sense vibration and pressure changes, and Meissner corpuscles that process texture and light touch. And together, they're creating this real time 3D map of your body that is updating thousands of times per second. So let's take, for instance, a single push up, okay? Your nervous system is tracking the angle of 360 joints, the length and tension of over 600 muscles, the position of your center of mass relative to your base of support, the distribution of load across every contact point, also micro adjustments needed to maintain alignment, and predictions about what happens next. And Dr. Esther Thielen's dynamic systems theory revealed that your body isn't following preset movement patterns, it's solving physics problems in real time. And every rep is a unique equation based on fatigue, surface, load, mood, hydration, and about 10,000 other variables your conscious mind ignores. And what's totally really epic about this is realizing that every rep, literally, it my reps are mine and mine alone, because all of those things that go into it, like I just mentioned, the fatigue, the surface load, the mood, hydration, and those 10,000 variables, those are mine personally. So it is going to be very unique. So we each have our very own equations, which is like totally dope if you really think about it. So what is the autonomic underground? And the secret programs that are running your performance. So while we're focused on counting reps, and sometimes I even mess that up. I'm like, what rep was I on again? Your autonomic nervous system is running background programs that quite honestly would humble any tech company. And Dr. Stephen Porges' polyvagal theory shows we have multiple nervous system states and each with different metabolic programs. So your body is constantly choosing which one to run based on perceived safety and challenge. And during intense training, your sympathetic nervous system orchestrates the following. And I'm using training just for the basis of this podcast, but it can be used in anything. Dilating bronchioles for increased oxygen intake, redirecting blood flow. Up to 80% goes to working muscles. It's releasing epinephrine and norepinephrine at precisely timed intervals and doses. It adjusts heart rate variability for optimal performance. It's modulating pain perception through endogenous opioids, and it's also managing thermal regulation through 2 to 4 million sweat glands. But here's another kicker. Dr. Bud Craig's interception research shows your brain is also tracking internal sensations that we're not conscious of: blood pH, cerebrospinal fluid pressure, inflammatory markers, cellular energy statuses, to name a few. And we have this entire universe of sensation, below our awareness threshold, and it's all being processed and acted upon without permission or knowledge. It's just doing its job. So now I want to talk about the metabolic motherboard and energy systems, that are more complex than our laptops. And everyone learns about aerobic versus anaerobic, like it's a simple switch. And that is really cute. But Dr. George Brooks' lactate shuttle theory revealed that your body is running multiple energy systems simultaneously, and it's sharing substrates between them in ways that would make a chemical engineer weep. So during a single workout, we are not just burning calories, okay? We're running a biochemical stock exchange. So our mitochondria, which is, they are our powerhouse and so much more, aren't just making ATP. They're signaling centers, calcium buffers, they're apoptosis regulators, and Dr. Doug Wallace's mitochondrial research shows they have their own DNA. Mitochondria has its very own DNA, their own protein synthesis machinery, and they're making executive decisions about cellular fate based on energy demand. So when you train, you're not just stressing muscles, you are initiating cascades of mitochondrial adaptations that reprogram your entire metabolic operating system. Then there's the phosphocreatine system. Okay, this is glycolysis. Glycolysis, the oxidative phosphorylation. They're not separate. They are these interconnected networks, right? And they are sharing substrates and byproducts and, regulatory signals. And your body is running economic models about energy investments versus return that Wall Street's looking and like, God damn, that is an exchange. So, what is our neuromuscular internet? And how do 100 billion neurons coordinate movement? So, our nervous system contains roughly 86 billion neurons, and each one is making up to 10,000 connections. And I talked about that in the opening. And that's more configurations than atoms in the observable universe, like I had mentioned as well. So, now during training, these neurons are firing in synchronized patterns that make, like our internet look like two cans connected by a string. And if anybody, I'm talking like 70s and 80 babies here, if you remember, and I'm going to get a drink of my tea. If you remember when we would take two cans, we'd put a hole through the bottom and then we would put string and we would call that telephone. Okay. That's what our body makes the internet look like. And Dr. Michael Gazzaniga's split brain research revealed something really, really cool and wild. Our nervous system is running parallel processing streams that your consciousness only samples from, that our consciousness only samples from. And what's happening is we're not controlling movement. We're more like a CEO who's getting executive summaries while the real work is happening in departments that we've never visited, okay? And motor neurons fire up to 120 meters per second. That's 268 miles per hour of electrical signals racing through our body. But speed isn't the impressive part, even though it's like, whoa, really? It's the precision. And Dr. Mark Latash's synergy research shows our nervous system, mine, solves the degrees of freedom problem by creating flexible movement coalitions. So instead of controlling each muscle individually, right, which would be impossible, it creates task specific teams that self organize based on a goal. So when you're doing a Turkish getup, our nervous system is coordinating the following: the visual vestibular integration of spatial orientation, the cerebellar predictions for sequential movement planning, basal ganglia action selection from thousands of motor programs, cortical override systems for conscious adjustments, spinal reflex that operate faster than thought, peripheral pattern generators to create rhythmic components. So we're not just doing a movement. We are literally conducting a neural symphony where every player is improvising within a structured framework. So let's talk about the sensory supercomputers, right? This is the processing power that, makes Silicon Valley just drool and froth at the mouth for. And so our sensory systems aren't just input devices. They are specialized supercomputers that are running proprietary algorithms. And Dr. David Hubble and Torsten Wiesel won a Nobel Prize just for figuring out how your visual systems processes edges and movements. So during training, our eyes aren't just seeing. What they're doing is they are running real time physics and calculations, right? So the vestibular system that's in our inner ear, it's running three-dimensional calculus to track head position and acceleration. And then those tiny calcium carbonate crystals, they are acting as the accelerometers that make your iPhone sensors look like they're like these little Stone Age tools. Like, it's like, well, what is that little thing, right? It just really makes them look so non-essential. And Dr. Kathleen Cullen's research shows that vestibular ocular reflex can stabilize your vision during head movements with the latencies of less than 10 milliseconds. So you're running image stabilization software that camera companies would kill for. And it gets crazier because our nervous system is running predictive processing models that construct your reality before sensory input arrives. And Dr. Anil Seth's research on predictive coding shows that you're not passively receiving information, right? You're actively constructing reality based on statistical models updated by prediction errors. So every workout is your brain's hypotheses about reality being tested and refined in real time. So another thing is I want to talk about the hormones and chemical messaging at light speed. So while our neurons are firing, our endocrine system is running a parallel communication network that 5G looks like it's something that like a Neanderthal invented, okay? And Dr. Robert Sapolsky's neuroendocrinology research reveals layers of hormonal connections that coordinate everything from immediate energy availability to long-term adaptation. So during training, again, as an example, we are releasing exercise induced BDNF, and that's your brain derived neurotrophic factor. It's literally like miracle grow for your neurons. We have the IGF-1 cascades that signal growth and repair, and then the cannabinoids that modulate pain and they create that runner's high, if you will. And then myokines from muscles, they communicate with every organ system. And then there are exerkines, and that's that cross, the blood-brain barrier to enhance the cognition of our brain, our mind, right? And Dr. Bente Peterson's research on muscle as an endocrine organ shattered the idea that muscles just move things. They're pharmaceutical factories inside of us, our own personal pharmacy. And it's producing hundreds of signaling molecules that reprogram your entire system. So every rep that you do, it is a software update. So now let's get into this. I like to look at it as the quantum gymnasium. And this is where physics starts to get really like strange and cool and weird all at the same time, right? And then okay, and it's almost like here's where we leave Kansas entirely. And Dr. Stuart Hameroff's controversial quantum consciousness theories aside, your body is dealing with quantum level phenomena during training. So ion channels in your neurons operate at scales where quantum effects matter. So the efficiency of electron transport in your mitochondria approaches quantum limits. And you're not just a biological machine. You're a quantum biological hybrid operating at the intersection of classical and quantum physics. So your muscle proteins exhibit catch bonds. And this is a molecular connection that gets stronger under load and it's defying classic physics. And Dr. Julio Fernandez's single molecule study shows proteins unfolding and refolding in ways that utilize mechanical force as information. Our bodies are literally computing with mechanical stress. So how can you hack your biological operating system with practical adaptations and applications? So, with all this really cool science stuff that I said, how do we take that and how do we use this knowledge, right? Because if you just listen to it and you're not putting the knowledge into action, it's quite honestly, it's just useless. So, first, it's just respect the fucking complexity. Like, again, like your body, oh my God, like just understanding how phenomenally fantastic the human body is, right? And it's like stop treating it like a dumb machine that just, isn't you're not fueling it properly or, giving it the correct intensity or the correct recovery or, you're just basically disrespecting your body. Look, this isn't like your car and you can take it in and you're going to trade your wheels. You got one set of wheels, right? AKA your legs It's the same thing. Like this is your car, your vehicle, and respect it. And, you're operating equipment more sophisticated than any humans, anything humans have built. And so it's like respect it, treat it accordingly, train accordingly. So practical applications would be variability is vital. Your nervous system thrives on novel challenges. Same workout equals computational atrophy. Quality over quantity. One rep with full nervous system engagement beats 100 mindless reps any day. And recovery is processing time. So your supercomputer needs defrag time. So we need to respect that. And presence, and it's also too like the other thing is recovery and understanding what recovery is not always like just taking time off. Sometimes recovery looks like active recovery. It's, going for that, nice on a rest day, going for just a nice 20 to 30-minute walk, like active recovery. And they're doing some stretches, right? So recovery is relative. Also, presence amplifies processing. So mindful training activates more neural real estate. So that would be, for me, I am more mindful when I train in silence, right? It just makes me more into what is happening, what I'm doing. Progressive complexity, challenge coordination, not just load. So Dr. Nikolai Bernstein's Degrees of Freedom principle shows mastery comes from your nervous system finding efficient solutions to movement problems. You're not building just strength, you are building computational efficiency. So, we're now in this really interesting part of a future interface, if you will, where training technology is meeting biology, and we're entering an era where we can finally start interfacing with our biological supercomputers intentionally. And with that, Dr. Miguel Nicolales's brain machine interface work shows that we can decode and influence neural patterns. We can, with heart rate variability training, it lets us hack into the autonomic function. And blood flow restriction training manipulates metabolic signaling. So we're becoming conscious programmers of biological operating systems. And that's something that, for me, I am really, really trying to research and input into my training programs in my app is, really thinking through and evolving and being able to utilize this supercomputer, right? But here's critical insight. Your body's computational power dwarfs any external technology. So the most advanced fitness tracker is like putting a calculator next to a quantum computer. And, sometimes too, like all the wearables, I just feel like the we rely on those too much. And the real revolution isn't in the wearables, it's in learning to consciously interface with the incomprehensible intelligence that we already possess. Intuitively, listening to the feedback from our own supercomputer that we have, that we get on the daily, right? And our supercomputer, it's literally just waiting for us to let it know what it wants to be done. And here's the profound truth that's been hiding in plain sight. So every time we train, we're not just building muscle or burning calories. We are interfacing with a system that is so complex that we need, metaphors from computer science just to approximate its function. And, we're running software updates on hardware that makes every human invention look like it's like this little Hasbro child's toy. And the question isn't whether your body is a supercomputer. It's whether you're going to keep using it like the old Nexus flip phone, which, by the way, those things were really great. I'm just going to say that. Or if we're going to, actually finally start to explore its actual capabilities. Because right now we're walking around with more processing power than all of the world's computers combined. And we're using it to count to 10 and worry about, do I have a six pack? What do my abs look like? Seriously, our nervous system is waiting for us to give it problems worthy of its capability. So stop insulting it with mindless repetition and start challenging it with complex patterns, novel movements, and conscious integration. Our biological supercomputer is freaking bored. So let's give it something interesting to finally process. So, all right, Badgers, I'm going to get another drink and, let's process what we just downloaded because it was a lot. And your body is just, isn't just doing movements, it's running computational miracles that science is barely beginning to understand, right? And every rep, every breath, every heartbeat is part of an orchestrated symphony of complexity that makes every human invention look like that Hasbro toy. So here's something I would like you to do. This week, I want you to approach one workout, whatever it is. It doesn't matter if your workout is going out and you're going to go for a walk, or it's going to be a body weight workout, or whatever it is. Okay. I want you to do the workout with complete presence, not just counting reps, not just walking, not just stretching, whatever it is, actually tuning in to the incomprehensible operating under the intelligence operating underneath the hood, quote unquote, okay? And feel the microsecond timing adjustments. Notice the predictive calculations. Appreciate the parallel processing and stop treating your body like a dumb, you know, beast, like disrespecting it, and start interfacing with it like the supercomputer that it actually is. Because here's what changes everything. Once we can understand that we are operating equipment that is so sophisticated, we stop accepting basic programming and we start, respecting it. We stop doing mindless workouts. We stop treating our body like it's something to punish into submission. And we start treating it like it's the most advanced technology that we're ever going to have the privilege of operating, because quite honestly, it is. So our nervous system has been waiting its entire life for you to realize what it's capable of. So today's the day we stop running on default settings and we start exploring what this incredible machinery can actually really do. So stay gritty and remember, you're not just working out. You are running software updates on the most sophisticated supercomputer in existence. This brings us to the denouement of this week's audio adventure. Thanks for joining me in the Badger Den. As always, thank you for listening to the Gritty Glitter Badger podcast, and be sure and share with a friend that you think may find value in this episode. If you enjoyed the show, be sure to rate on Spotify and head over and check us out on iHeartRadio. There will also be videos of guest interviews on YouTube, and I will have a link in the show notes for that. You can email feedback and reviews to grittyglitterbadger@gmail.com. You can scroll down in the show notes and leave a comment under the section that says, what do you think of this episode? Send me some love, give me some feedback, let me know how you're doing, and as always, grow forth, keep learning, and win the day.